First-time guest on our show from the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, the Complaint Division, Director of the Civil Rights Operations, Lori Vinson. Hey, Lori, welcome.
Hi, good afternoon, Bart.
Yeah, nice to see you. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So discrimination, it's a bad word, and it's unfortunate, but apparently there's still discrimination. People are still being discriminated against here in 2019.
Yes, unfortunately, we do still have this problem here in Michigan, throughout the state, throughout the country. So that's why the Michigan Department of Civil Rights is here to serve our citizens who have experienced unlawful discrimination. And
because it's been legislated, there really is a definition of what discrimination is, right?
Yes, that's correct. So it is anyone who has a belief that they have been unlawfully discriminated in the areas of employment, education, housing, public accommodation, public service, and law enforcement on protected bases. And those bases include race, religion, age, sex, height, weight, disability, genetic info, so everybody has a protected class.
And it's really two different things that are defined: where and how you're discriminated against, and for what reason, right?
Correct.
And I think that's one of the things a lot of the conversation has been about in this country is, well, what are the things you can't discriminate against? And here in Jackson, we have a non-discrimination ordinance, and I think that covers everything. Mm-hmm. But throughout the state, is it different?
It may be a little different than the Jackson ordinance. Some of the city ordinances cover protections that our department does not. So I'm not like some ordinances may cover source of income. We do not cover source of income. So our protections are very specific based on those protected classes.
So as an example, if you're a landlord and someone wants to rent an apartment and they're getting money from the government or whatever, that could be a reason someone could discriminate, and that's not protected?
That's correct.
Wow.
That's correct.
Yeah.
However, if you have two individuals who are getting income from the government, and one may be a man and one may be a woman, and they give the apartment to a man but not the woman, then that may be covered, because that could be potentially gender discrimination.
And when we talk about, gender discrimination, we're just speaking male versus female, but are we speaking also of someone that might be transgendered or gay or any of the other areas that would fall under sexual orientation?
Our commission had an interpretive statement where they determined that sex was inclusive of someone's sexual orientation or gender identity. So currently we are investigating those cases as well.
Yeah. But the bottom line is, discrimination is discrimination, and some of it is defined by law and some of it isn't, unfortunately.
Correct.
So what happens if somebody feels they've been discriminated against? Is it complicated? Do you have to get a lawyer? What's the process?
You do not have to get a lawyer. Actually, you can contact our department either by phone, by mail. You can go on our website. Our 800 number is 1-800-482-3604. We have an intake unit that's located in our Detroit office, and they will do an intake interview with the customer who calls. You can go on our website at michigan.gov/MDCR and how to file a complaint. You can enter your complaint there, and someone will give you a call back from our intake unit or send mail in. And we also have our community intake here in Jackson once per month.
And here on the screen is the brochure, parts of the brochure that talk about the whole process. Are we getting a lot of, are you seeing a lot of complaints?
Yes, we receive approximately 2,000 complaints each year.
Wow.
Through our department on the different bases.
And do they fall into one category primarily, or are they across the board?
Employment is our biggest category. Housing is our second biggest category. And based on our protected bases, race is still our #1 bases, with disability being a close second.
Can you say, I don't want to hire you, but in Michigan, you don't have to give a reason. I mean, you don't even have to say to someone, I'm not going to hire you. But at what point does someone, like an employer, have to say, I don't want to hire you because, well, we have too many of your kind here? That would trigger a...
That could trigger a complaint from our department, yes.
And from that statement, that sounds like a violation.
It could be. It depends on what they mean by any of your kind. So it's all dependent upon that. But all an individual would have to do is contact our office, let us know, why they feel they were discriminated against. If it falls within one of our areas and one of our bases, and the adverse action was within 180 days, we will take a complaint.
Of these 2,000 complaints that you get each year, how many do you find to be valid?
In what sense? So we determine a complaint valid if we can conduct an investigation.
Okay.
So during the process, MDCR is a neutral party, so we're gathering facts in order to make our determination. So it's deemed to be valid if we process a formal complaint. Now those complaints could end up as insufficient evidence of unlawful discrimination. We could find evidence of discrimination, or during the process, the parties may reach a resolution before there is a finding of discrimination.
Which probably is what the hoped for outcome is as far as your department is concerned.
Yes, we would like to see some remedy occur so that both parties are satisfied with the outcome of the case.
All right. Well, let's take an example. Someone doesn't get a job because they're black. That's clearly an illegal case of discrimination. If that person finds out that that's the reason they didn't get the job, they make a complaint, then what's the process?
So if they make the complaint, we will serve the complaint on the respondent. The respondent has 14 days to provide us with a detailed position statement answering the allegations in the complaint, and also provide us with supporting documentation. So if it's a failure to hire case, we would ask for the qualifications of the position that they posted. We would ask for the applications or resumes of the individuals who applied for the position, interview notes, and then the reason why they selected the candidate and why the claimant, the individual filing the complaint, was not selected.
And then does the individual that files a complaint, then do they have to do they have to make some case?
They do have to make some case. So at the onset, the burden is the claimant's burden to provide information that unlawful discrimination occurred. That's where the complaint comes in. And then after that, the burden shifts to the respondent. The respondent will provide their non-legitimate, discriminatory, their legitimate reason for not discriminating against the claimant, and then the burden can shift back and forth during the course of the investigation.
And the parties, they have to face each other at some point.
Not necessarily face each other face to face. That can be part of the investigation, where the investigator brings the individuals in together to conduct a resolution and fact-finding conference, or the investigation may take place with meetings with the claimant, or it can be done over the phone. It also could include a visit to the respondent's location.
The goal really is to not have discrimination, and through the process, are you finding that you're discouraging incidents of discrimination from happening?
We would hope so, because throughout the process we're also educating. We're not an advocate. Again, we're a neutral party, so we're also providing information to the respondents as well as the claimants, educating them on the law, educating them on what's required. So we are taking the proactive approach in that sense as well.
And then the penalties. What happens should you find that, yes, discrimination occurred?
If we find discrimination occurred, the case goes to one of our staff attorneys who are on our staff, and they conduct what's called a conciliation conference with the respondent. What they try to do is make the individual whole. So if it's a failure to hire case, as you mentioned previously, that could include back wages, maybe a possible future job for the claimant. If the respondent is not willing to settle at that stage, then it goes for legal review with our attorneys to determine if they're going to file a charge on the case. Once that happens, an administrative law judge is assigned to it, and they will take testimony, depositions and that, and then make a recommendation on the overall case. And then that case will go to our commission, and our commission will determine whether or not they accept the administrative law judge's finding, if they're going to modify it, or if they disagree with it and go another route.
And another route would be court.
Our commission, well, sometimes the administrative law judge may say they didn't find discrimination occurred, and our commission may say we feel that it is discrimination. So then it can still be heard in front of our commission. But yes, at any time the parties can choose to take the matter to court.
And your administrative law judge would then be, in an example like that, say, okay, this happened 4 months ago. This person should not have been discriminated against, and now you owe them $10,000. Does that happen?
It could possibly happen, but if they do that, the case would still go in front of our commission, and then they have to determine if they agree with the administrative law judge. So our commission has the final ruling on that, and then once they rule on it, the parties are able to take the matter into court if they disagree with the commission's ruling.
Lori, before the show, you were telling me you're based in Grand Rapids, but you have offices in Detroit and, of course, the state offices in Lansing. What about here in Jackson? Is there a convenient method for someone to make contact with your department?
Sure. We don't have an office here in Jackson. As you mentioned, we have an office in Grand Rapids, one in Lansing, and one in Detroit. But we are here on site once a month on the United Way campus. We have an investigator who comes on site the first Tuesday of every month between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. And they can meet with individuals who feel they've been subject to unlawful discrimination, and they can conduct the intake interview on site and then also file the formal complaint while they're speaking to that individual to get the process rolling.
Yeah, and here are details on how you can make an appointment or talk with somebody. Is the process for someone that files a complaint, is it discouraging? Are people afraid to make a complaint because, wow, they might have to go before an administrative law judge, they might have to get a notarized statement? Is it a hassle?
I don't think it's a hassle. That's why we've brought our services to the community. Yes, you do have to have a signed notarized complaint, but on the flip side of that, if you don't complain about it, there can be nothing that can be done about it. So we have brochures on our website that walk individuals through our process to let them know exactly what to expect during the course of the investigation. Our staff will explain to them what to expect during the course of the investigation in order to try to minimize that fear, or to try, so they're not discouraged to go through the process.
Yeah. So if you're discriminated against, do something about it. And if you're discriminating, stop. Are you finding, is there certain things that people are finding or are surprised that, oh, this is discrimination? I didn't know.
Possibly. One of the areas may be housing. You have a lot of landlords who are just self-landlords. They don't belong to rental property companies, so they're not quite versed with the law. But if they're going to be a landlord, they need to read up on the law, what their rights and responsibilities are under that law when renting to other individuals.
Great. Well, thanks for all the information.
Thank you.
Great to see you. Thanks for coming in today.
Thank you for having me.
It's the first Tuesday of every month at the United Way on Jackson Street in downtown. From the Michigan Department of Civil Rights, Director of Civil Rights Operations, Lori Vinson. Well,